Plan Marcus, Jose Hodl. How's your trades going?
Good morning. Good morning.
Jesus. Good morning or good afternoon or whatever, wherever you are, right? First of all, thank you for inviting me to the show. It's an honor. My trades are shit, but then again, I don't trade as much. I only trade good things, happy things, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not for trading. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I'm just trading my fiat in for Bitcoin. That's the trade that I like to run.
Yeah.
And just
my
enjoy.
trades are shit on that department as well because I don't have enough fiat anymore.
I know what's the solution, man? How do we get more fiat?
We work, we mine, we fiat mine, right?
Yes, yeah,
absolutely. Gotta increase that cash flow so you can buy more corn.
Exactly.
While it's still cheap.
Exactly.
It really does feel like we're in the low lows right now. I mean,
yeah.
Predicting price is always like a fool's errand, and you're always going to get burnt. But I don't know. I feel like the bottom is in.
I have the same feeling as well.
So
I'm actually feeling. Well, it's mixed feelings. I'm cool and collected, you know, but I'm anxious as well because I need more fiat to buy Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Before the price runs, right?
Yeah.
That's the anxious feeling. Exactly. That's what I'm feeling right now. It's like, oh my God, it could take like another 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years, like gradual sideways and slowly upwards. But it feels like, like for the next long-term period, this is like the ultimate lows, that you're going to look back to and wish like, oh my God, I wish I went harder during that period.
Yeah, I have those 2018, late 2018, I think, vibes, there's not much. Well, I was about to say there's not much going on, but there is a lot of things going on. But people, at least normies, are they think Bitcoin is no more. They think it's dead already. It's not. And they'll see in a few months.
Yeah, and the majority of Bitcoiners are just stacking still, and it's not even about wishing that we went harder, because most of us are already stacking or as much as we can. And I think maybe the harder is, hey, is there any way that I can make more money? Is there any way I can make more fiat to get more Bitcoin? Because that's kind of the goal right now. Is okay, how do I I think that's one of the biggest things is that we don't talk about it enough in the Bitcoin space is we say like, hey, go drive Uber to make more Bitcoin. But what if it was like, try to up your skills so you could really up how much more Bitcoin you can get by making way more fiat per hour, because doing your job and then driving Uber after, that's going to get you more Bitcoin. But if you can up your skills and really get a job that's where you can really stack hard, then that's going to be a much bigger and significant difference in your Bitcoin stack, especially if you can do it right now when the price of Bitcoin is so low.
Yeah, the thing is that getting the skills or getting the skills and the competence to get a job or an occupation that can really earn you some serious money involves a lot of time and has some risk associated with it, because it's always longer than the we're running against the time.
Yes.
Nobody can, at least I don't think so. Nobody can start now doing something that can earn them more money in the future and still be around when the prices are this low. It's not possible. But it's a thing that you have to plan in advance to become better at some things and more skilled at some things and earn more money from it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also very much related to like how old the person is that you're talking to. You know, if you're like 20 something or if you're like 60 something, it'll be a big difference, of course.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, let's get a little Bitcoiners Guide intro in before we really get into the weeds. Welcome everybody to Bitcoiners Guide. This is the show that we wish we would have had when we first started learning about Bitcoin. So we made it for you. We're your host, Plan Marcus Big Sean. We're here with Mr. Jose, the man, the myth, the legend. Just want to do a little quick timestamp and price stamp. Today is Thursday, January 5th. In 2023, so happy new year to everybody out there. Feliz año nuevo to all of my Spanish speakers. It's 8:23 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, and the current price of Bitcoin is $16,800 and some change, and sitting about where it's been sitting for a long time. Plan Marcus is saying that the bottom is in. Price doesn't really matter. And what are you guys feeling right now? You know, right now we've been talking, hey, it's the time to keep stacking harder. What are you guys feeling? Does this feel like the transition of 2018 into 2019 where we had that down year in 2018, and then Bitcoin probably I think it almost doubled in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Are you guys feeling like
Tripled.
that's where we're tripled? Okay, then I am mistaken. So are you guys feeling like that's where we're at? Does the price matter? I think it matters a little bit because hitting higher highs in every cycle and hitting higher lows does matter for adoption. What are you guys' thoughts on all of this right now?
Jose, go ahead.
Well, I think price is the first motivator for most people. It's an important component of Bitcoin as well. Not the most important, but probably the most important to embark new people. It's inevitable. People will get attracted to Bitcoin because of volatility and price moves, and they learn more from it. It is what it is. I'm sure most of us got into Bitcoin because of the price first, and we gradually learn more from it and started to realize the true meaning of Bitcoin and the real benefits it has on one's life.
Yeah, I agree there. And price is definitely important, but I'd also like to add to that you know, just for a lot of people, you've seen that you know, the COVID crisis and the money printing that was going on, that was a important realization for people that something is wrong with our current system. And I think also for people living in countries where there's like inflation is really high, and I mean right now inflation is really high all over the world. You know, when we're talking about more than 5% in other countries, double-digit inflation, people are realizing that their money is being debased really fast, and they're gonna realize, hey, this Bitcoin thing, you know, it might be volatile, but over a longer period of time, it's a safer bet to store your wealth in. So I think that's a driver as well. In a comparison to 2018, 2019, yeah, if you look at the cycles, I mean, if you just look at the graph, it's undeniable. I'm still like amazed how anybody cannot look at that log chart and be like, wow, 3 perfect cycles. You know, it's yeah, it's definitely worth placing a bet on it. But on the other hand, Jose, you just mentioned people saying, you know, like, oh, they think it's dead. Normies think Bitcoin is dead, but I have a feeling it's a little bit different this time, because when I ask people around, you know, about Bitcoin this time, everybody's really like, yeah, I know it, and they do know it's down, but I don't hear a lot of people saying it's dead. You know, we've really come a long way since 2018.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Lightning Network, when it comes to banks holding it, when it comes to, you know, corporate treasuries holding Bitcoin, we've got El Salvador holding Bitcoin, and you know the Bitcoin's come a long way. So I think, you know, that's leaked through into the perception of normies as well. And with time, I think it just settles more and more in the brains of people, and it builds trust over time. I guess they call that the Lindy effect. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to jump a 3x anymore, because obviously the market cap keeps growing, so it's going to be harder to grow as fast. You kind of see that too. There's like, but yeah, I don't know. I'm excited, man. It's there's still a lot more to come, and people are like, "Are you literally waiting for like a new country to onboard?" Or, but it's
Yes.
yeah. I mean,
Yes and no.
4 years ago, we were talking about, you know, like at some point countries will onboard, but we had no idea how or what. And you kind of see how it's playing out now, right? I mean, I'm seeing like there's this new presidential candidate in Argentina who's also advocating for Bitcoin, and you know, Panama, and there's all, and in Mexico there's all kind of politicians, you know, like looking into this, and it's, you know, they're doing the work, they're starting to learn. 4 years ago there was none of that. There was no way of seeing it, and now we can kind of start to predict a little bit how this nation state adoption will look like. And it looks like it's going to be, you know, like smaller nations that are maybe dollarized, or, you know, having trouble with real inflation, that are starting to, you know, warm up to this, so to speak. While 4 years ago in 2018, it was just like, yeah, it's going to happen, but probably like 15 years from now. And it actually happened much sooner. It happened within 3 years. So yeah, that's pretty bullish.
Yeah, yeah, I share the same opinion as you. The context is a lot different than 2018, that's for sure. I mean, the global south, as they call it now, it's not that much different from 2018. They were primed for Bitcoin in 2018 as they are now. They always have been primed for Bitcoin. But the Western world, or the global north, I don't know how you call it these days, but the context is a lot different than what it was in 2018. I mean, we had just the last year so many events that it's almost difficult to keep a track on everything clownish that is happening.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of insane. What a lot of things bother me and make me feel a bit worried about the future, in a sense. But what bothers me the most is most normies, they can't join the dots. I mean, the dots already joined. It's a line already, but they just can't seem to relate it. You know, it's insane. I mean, all these protests and all this shit going on in Canada and New Zealand, Australia, Europe, the United States. I mean, they still have border issues with the with the with the with the pandemic and whatever. It's insane. And then the
Yeah.
money printing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, about your point about connecting the dots, right? It's so hard for people to realize that if you use the currency that your government creates, then they can control you, because they can control your money. And the way you opt out of that is using a money that not only your government doesn't create and can't control, but that no one can control. And that's what Bitcoin is. It's this money that's been created that nobody has power over of the system. You have power over your own, and it's the difference, right? And when I use dollars or euros when I'm in Europe, I don't have control over my own money. I give that control to the government. They have control over my money. But with Bitcoin, it takes the control away from anyone else besides myself. And then I have control over my money, because I can control my keys. And so if I can control my own money, then I'm free from inflation from the government. I'm free from being controlled one way or another by the government. And I think what we're going to see, what we've seen a lot actually in Bitcoin, is we've seen a lot of these little gradually then suddenly, and gradually, like every cycle has been a gradually then suddenly, another gradually then suddenly.
Yeah.
You know, that's every cycle has been that, until the big gradually then suddenly. I think that's what we're going to keep seeing, and no one can predict when the big one will be, right? The hyper Bitcoinized gradually then suddenly will be, but we're seeing a lot of these little gradually then suddenlies along the way. And even I just went to the store the other day, and I love the sugar-free vitamin water. It's like my go-to when I'm back in the US, and because it's got a lot of good electrolytes in it. It may not be the healthiest thing, but
I'm sorry.
but it used to be 4 for $5, and I just went to the store this week, and now it's 2 for $3, right? So it looks like, oh, it's cheaper, right? But no, that means it's 4 for $6. So it went from $5 and it went up $1. So that's a 20% increase in price. And I think what's hard for a lot of people who aren't seeing this is they've gotten accustomed to the old trope of prices go up. It's just like a thing that everyone knows. Prices go up, but why? Why do prices go up? Why should they go up? Why do they have to go up? Why is it good for the economy if prices go up? Is it good in Argentina that prices go up? Is it good in Venezuela that prices go up? So I think a lot of people, you have to break it down and show people, or people have to figure out and feel that pain of, look, I can't even afford my groceries like I used to anymore. And that's when it really starts to hurt.
Yeah, they actually by debasing the money, they are really impoverishing people and keeping them in a cage. They are not only in a cage, but it's like those hamster cages with the wheels. They keep you on a wheel forever. you just have to keep going harder, and you can't keep up with it.
Yeah, you have to keep running faster. Hey, Jose, what is I really love to go in a little bit on your journey. Like you're from Portugal. I remember there was when I was still living in Amsterdam. This was like 2018, 2019. Portugal was looking like one of the nations where a lot of people wanted to move to because they were crypto friendly and tax friendly taxes towards Bitcoin. But if I'm correct, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it actually turned out to be that Portugal actually just simply said like, well, we don't really understand this yet, so we're not going to implement any laws yet. So that's the reason why they weren't taxing anything. And now, they've always been part of the EU, but as the EU starts, implementing more and more laws, basically Portugal has now announced that they're going to follow suit, and they're also not necessarily very crypto friendly. So it wasn't a crypto friendly stance. It was more crypto, we don't understand it stance before they actually implemented. But, I'm just really curious, like how did you get to Bitcoin, and, how did you find Twitter? Tell us a little bit about that backstory, because I always love hearing, that personal side of how people get into it, or what drove them towards Bitcoin. And did it change you in any way? And do you have any tips? Do you have any tips for newcomers? Imagine you're somebody from 2022 or early 23. Like you just come into Bitcoin, great time to come in. But I mean, what would you advise them based on your story?
Well, I'm sure my story must be similar to a lot of people, but then again, I don't really know, because I don't share this with a lot of people, at least not in Portugal, because we're not that many, at least not publicly. Or there's last year actually, or coincidentally, there has been a lot of new things happening in the Bitcoin space in Portugal. Mostly meetups. There wasn't a lot of meetups, or any meetups at all, before last year, and it started in Lisbon. John Carvalho organized a first meetup, maxi meetup in Lisbon, and then things kept going on, and there's a monthly meetup in Lisbon now. It's fairly frequented by maxis. There's usually I don't know, around 30 to 50 maxis every other meetup.
Wow.
And I like to call it group therapy, you know. it's it's those couple of hours that you escape from fiatism and normie life, because it sometimes it gets hard. People don't understand, and they like I said before, they don't connect the dots, even though they're not dots anymore, they're lines. But yeah, there's some people, I see some people discovering Bitcoin now. Some were shitcoining for years, or trying to shitcoin anyway, and they got wrecked and they found Bitcoin. I mean, I'm active in some groups in Telegram or Twitter, and not Twitter that much, at least not the Portuguese version of Twitter, because it's crap. But in Telegram, I see people joining every day, and most were wrecked by the shit coins that got wrecked last year. And yeah, but my personal story is, well, I didn't join Bitcoin because I was shitcoining. I was just like I said before, the hamster wheels. I was in a kind of an hamster wheel myself, and at my company, I was like, I have to do something. Every other year, I was making those end of year budgeting for the next year and whatever. And I was like, I was thinking I should change something, because this can't keep up like this. It's not healthy, you know. It's not healthy to be running for things and not getting them, and see you getting drained constantly year after year. It's not healthy. And so I decided to look up for alternatives, and I ended up crossing paths with Bitcoin again, because I had a first, or a few touch ups, with Bitcoin before, in 2012 or 2013. I I listened. I heard about Bitcoin for the first time, because I bought a computer, and I was like, and I was checking prices. I was making it myself. I was buying all the parts, and then I was watching the graphic cards prices skyrocketing. I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then they were buying graphics cards in bulk to mine Bitcoin, and that's the first time I heard about it. Then I tried to look
Do you
into it.
remember? Do you remember what you thought when you heard that? So people were buying graphics cards to mine Bitcoin on their GPUs, I guess, on their computer.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that was your first touch point. What was your first thought when you heard about Bitcoin? Then were you like, what do
yeah.
you remember?
Yeah, I remember I looked into it in the internet, and I was like, this is some it was either this is very American Odlish, but I was like, this is either nerd money or games money, or a scam or something like that, or a hobby. I was
Yeah.
thinking along those lines, and but I thought it was interesting, but I didn't understood it then, and I didn't bought it at the
You
time.
didn't look into it further.
No, I was just postponing it. Maybe in the weekend I'll have a few minutes or hours searching and learning more about it. But it was not urgent, and it was not that important at the time. At least I didn't give any importance to it, so I didn't learn anything from it. And then a few years later, I heard about it again through some people, and they were college kids, and they find things for before every other people, because they have a lot of free time, and they talk a lot with each other and whatever. And I was like, I was curious about it, and that coincided with that period of my life that I was trying to look for a way to get some balance in life. and that's when I decided to learn more about it. And yeah, at the beginning it was not easy because there was not a lot of information in the internet, and it was all sketchy things, you know.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier
Yeah,
for
what did you find? Like, where did you start to look?
Yeah. Did
uh I think
you
it
get into
was
like some crypto podcast or things like that, or what? You know, how did you?
no, not actually podcasts. It was I mostly found things in Reddit, but Reddit is a cesspool, always has
Yes.
been. So I was always a bit skeptic about it. At least at the beginning, I was treading lightly. Let's say like that. And I eventually found my path into Twitter a few years later, perhaps. I'm not sure because I didn't have Twitter. I didn't even know Bitcoin Twitter was a thing, and I'm glad. I don't know how I found it, but I'm glad I did because the alternatives at the time were bad. But yeah, but it went a lot faster from there because then I understood. No, I'm not a fucking crazy guy.
Yeah.
I'm not alone, you know. So I'm not crazy, and because at some point you doubt, you find it, you read about it, you learn more about it, but you always have that doubt, am I seeing this right? And you have no one
Nobody.
to validate or to test you, you know.
Yeah.
And you just go, I'm not sure if I'm correct or not, but if I'm wrong, I'm gonna make the most absurd error of my life. But if I'm right, if I'm right, I might get, I might be okay. Yeah.
I know it's so true. And before you find Bitcoin Twitter, you do really like. I remember before I found Bitcoin Twitter, I would be asking myself almost every day, like, am I crazy? You know,
Yeah.
like why do I see this and no one else in my life sees this? Like
Exactly.
nobody sees it. And I try to explain it to them and they're not interested. And I'm like, what is going on? Why? And then you get to Bitcoin Twitter and it's like, oh, here's where the other people are in the world that understand what I understand. But then it also begs the question, right? Like, are we all crazy? Is it just a small group of us that are just crazy psychopaths that have found each other to be crazy with each other, right? Like, is that what it is?
Hey,
Yeah,
if it is,
I imagine some of the journalists that were questioning whether there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq felt the same way at the time. You know.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, if it is a smallish group of psychopaths and happy with each other, talking about Bitcoin, I'll die an happy man.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
That's true. You know what?
Yeah,
If we're wrong, then we just lose our money, right? So
yeah,
there's no really other consequence. And if we're right, well, then it's more than just the money, right? There's freedom involved in all of this, and and that's how I look at it, right? The path that I see
yeah,
coming is Bitcoin, as Saifedean puts it, right? It's the alternative to central banking. It's not the alternative to crypto. It's not the alternative to to. I mean, it is the alternative fiat or gold or whatever. But the main alternative that it is the central banking, and central banking's biggest tool is going to be the central bank digital currency, in my mind. And so I think where it's all headed is for the whole world to have this one global CBDC that's complete surveillance and monetary slavery versus Bitcoin, which is privacy oriented, freedom money, trustless, and I don't need anyone to permission me to send my money or to spend my money on anything that I want to spend it on. So, you got these two things that are headed towards each other, and if we're right, then we're going to help maintain those freedoms for humanity, which I think we are right. and because, keep studying it all the time. And, maybe we're wrong somewhere, but that's why it's important to be humble during this whole process, because most of the time it looks like we're idiots, and you just have to take like your ego. If you have a big ego and you can't hodl Bitcoin, because to your friends and family, you'll look like an idiot for about 3 years out of every 4 years. And then 1 year you look like this superhero. And then you'll go back to looking like an idiot again, So it's something that humbles you, and you just can't have a big ego with it.
Yeah.
I can jump in there. For me, it was really like, it kind of comes back down to trust, that feeling like, are we wrong? Are you going to lose all your money? For me, it all changed after I found Twitter, and you realize that there is this community that really, like sees Bitcoin for what it is, what it can mean to humanity. And they just want to switch to this new system, like you said, an alternative for this corrupt fiat system, switch to a more fair system. And then you realize that you can't lose your money, because as long as this community exists, and as long as they stand behind this idea, it will never fall to zero, because then you realize there are all these people that are buying Bitcoin no matter what, and the further the price falls, the more they buy. And they will always keep trading Bitcoin between one each other, right? So if all the normies who don't really get Bitcoin drop away, we're left with all the Bitcoin maximalists that want to keep working, and create like a Bitcoin circular economy. So we'll keep trading it between each other, and we'll keep sending services and goods in trade for Bitcoin. And I will always accept your Bitcoin, Sean, and I will always accept your Bitcoin, Jose, because we know the work that went into it, and we know it's a fair system. So when you realize that's the floor, and you always wonder, like, what's giving this thing its price? Is it the mining? Is it the cost of production? Is it, what is this price thing? But if you just think of it, it's this community that trusts this Bitcoin. And the thing is, you don't have to trust anything, because that's the way Bitcoin is worked, is set up. Like if you hold a Bitcoin, the work was put in, nobody else can move it, there's no intermediary, there's nobody that can rug pull you. But the only thing you trust in is that the community will keep accepting this as a way of money. And fiat is no different. If we just trust the dollar because we trust that everybody else trusts the dollar, we'll keep using it and keep accepting it. And with gold, it's no different. You trust that gold is real, and that, like, it's not going to get like debased. And we have that trust because we know how hard it is to find gold. And so Bitcoin really is no different than any of that. It just actually has a lot better aspects. And for me, it was really finding Bitcoin Twitter, and all of a sudden realizing, like, whoa, this idea is real. Bitcoin is real. And the community that trusts it, and wants to switch to this system is real and is growing. So what more do you want? It's
yeah. So kind of going back to your story, Jose, I wanted to sorry, Marcus, I'm not trying to take away from anything.
No.
I totally agree with what you're saying, but
I realize I'm ranting. Yeah.
I ranted too. I just wanted to ask, because I'm really curious about Bitcoin in Portugal, and we were talking about this before we started recording. And I think one of the biggest things is when I first was looking at Bitcoin, one of the things that popped out to me was there's actually a lot of really good laws that favor Bitcoin in Portugal, and at least that used to be that way. And I'm not sure if it's still like that, but when I first started looking into Bitcoin, Portugal was like this safe haven for Bitcoiners. And even though it was in the EU, it was like the only country that was that way. Do you mind expounding a little bit on if it's still the same way, what those laws are? If you have to pay capital gains taxes on your Bitcoin or different things like that, in the event that you have to sell any, what's the laws like out there in Portugal?
Yeah, well, for the last years, Portugal has been considered like a safe haven for Bitcoiners, because there was no taxation in Bitcoin, there was no capital gains on Bitcoin, there was no any kind of tax on Bitcoin at all. And there was actually a note from the tax authority saying that Bitcoin was not Bitcoin transactions, or they weren't considered taxable events. So, and they said they wouldn't tax it wasn't taxable. But unfortunately, that changed in the past few weeks or months,
Oh man.
because the Portuguese government decided to end this how do you say it, this period of non-taxation. They will start into 2023. They will start taxation, and they will tax well, they will tax Bitcoin they will have capital gains on Bitcoin, 28% on the gains,
Wow.
if there are any gains, and only if you sell and buy within a year. That is, I think they copied the German model or something like that.
So if you hold
Because
it, so if you hold it for more than a year, then you're still not taxed.
exactly, if you hold it more than a year, you're not taxed. So you could say it's an incentive for hodlers, but that wasn't the intention at all. The
Yeah.
intention is to tax. The issue here is, well, the way I see it, taxation on Bitcoin, well, it is what it is. They already tax everything else. I don't agree with taxation. Taxation is theft anyway. But
That's a prime example. It's a prime example of why taxation is theft, right there, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
make up a new tax.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's they want to tax it hard, and but they don't know how to do it. Okay, they want to tax a lot of things. It's not only Bitcoin; it's shitcoins as well. Lisbon was the shitcoin capital of the world because there was no taxation on Bitcoin and shitcoins.
Yeah.
So
So wasn't there a discussion, because I imagine there's quite a bit of a Bitcoin/crypto community and people that move there. You know, I know there's like a lot of YouTubers and people that did move there.
yeah, well,
weren't they afraid of losing that or destroying that?
the politicians are idiots, and they are advised by middlemen and rent seekers and idiots as well, and so they make the most stupid decisions. You could say, well, this change in taxation law is going to drive out a lot of shitcoiners. Yes, it will, but it will also drive out a lot of Bitcoiners, and I think they are a net positive to society in any place they are, because they are not only well, some of them are not only wealthy, but they are well, if you sometimes you don't need to be humble all the time, right? Bitcoin is an IQ test. I think Bitcoin is an IQ test, and so most Bitcoiners, at least the ones I know, are intelligent people, and they are net positive to any society in any place they are. And I think the country has a lot more to lose driving out Bitcoiners than it has by collecting a few pennies in tax. Well,
I completely agree, and that's exactly what El Salvador is winning right now. You know,
yeah.
so,
And it's a funny thing, because not only they will drive out Bitcoiners and shitcoiners as well, but that's positive. They will start discussion with other how do you say, other industries that are taxed heavily. And now, before they couldn't compare to Bitcoin, because there was no taxation in Bitcoin, so they didn't saw a point in comparisons. But now they do. If you tax 28% on capital gains in Bitcoin and you don't tax it after a year, real estate guys, stock guys, banks, investment funds, and whatever, they already started crying about how heavily taxed they are, and they want the same taxation they have for Bitcoin now. So it's it's a shot on the foot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your opinion? Because I hear, and I don't get me wrong, I mean you're talking about driving out the shitcoiners as well. Some people consider, like, well, don't be too rough against shitcoiners because that's the first step you got to take to become a Bitcoiner.
Well, yeah, you have to be as rude as possible to shitcoiners because they are shit.
You
It's
gotta let them know. You gotta talk some sense into them, right?
there's not many sensible shitcoiners. I mean, it's not that easy to put sense in those heads, but they will only learn by getting wrecked. Most of shitcoiners, I think I'm not really sure. I think it's biased education and biased context, and they don't the ones that are not actively scamming other people are in an illusion,
Yeah.
and they will.
Yeah, I'd make a distinction as well between people that are actively pushing a shit
Yeah,
coin, right? The ones who are trying to create something out of nothing, basically, versus people who are buying this stuff and thinking like, hey, I'm looking for a way to make more money, and they really haven't done the work yet into figuring this whole thing out, basically.
yeah. Well, yeah, those are the exit liquidity providers, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
the shitcoiners, the real negative ones are the ones that are pushing, rug pulling people and selling bags of shitcoins to other people. Those are the criminals. But there's a lot of them in Lisbon as well. So
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's pretty amazing because these people will listen to their favorite crypto influencers,
yeah,
and these crypto influencers get paid to show them some garbage altcoin. And then when they show them that altcoin, the influencer gets paid, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in that token. Then their community of fans buys that token as they're selling them that token to rug pull them, right? Like literally the exit liquidity, they're dumping on their own audience. And then they have the audacity to say that, oh, we're making you millionaires, we're making you rich and all this other BS. So, like how it just doesn't make any sense. Like how long can a crypto influencer like a BitBoy Crypto or whoever, right? A Richard Hex, like how long can these guys last for when they constantly will just dump on their own audience? Like it doesn't make any sense. How do they keep getting people to subscribe to them? How do they keep getting an audience when they're dumping on them?
well, there's that saying that there's a fool born every minute, right?
Yeah.
So they will have audience for the next 4 or 5 years at least before their fall.
oh yeah, I fully agree. It is going to be a while. It's there's still like so much waves and waves of noobs and people who don't understand anything yet to be scammed and that are going to be coming into this. So right now, they have fields and fields of fresh fruit to be to pluck, but at a certain point, that's going to dry up. It's not a sustainable model long term for sure.
A lot of young people that are waiting to be fleeced by these scammers. Yeah, it's a long process. It's not going to end that soon. Yeah, Bitcoin
That's
has
a
to.
difference. That's a difference with 2018. In 2018, I thought, okay, this is the death of the ICO and the shit coins, and then I was completely wrong on that because
Yeah,
look what happened with this whole NFT wave and
yeah.
oh my
DeFi.
god,
Oh,
Shiba
about
Inu and DeFi and
yeah,
Dexes and oh my
about
god.
the NFTs, I remembered something now. This new taxation law in Portugal. There are a few crypto associations. It's a cultural thing here. People do groups or foundations or associations for everything and anything, you know. And there's a couple of them. There's a couple of them for shit coins. They claim to be for blockchain or for crypto or whatever, but they're
Right.
shit coiners. They're shit coiners, and they were advising, and they put the foot on the door. They make themselves important, but they mostly are a bunch of bureaucrats and lawyers and middlemen and rent seekers, you know, that make up these associations because they look for profit in things, you know.
Yeah.
And so they advised the government in doing this new taxation law to help them tax the shitcoin things than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is really straightforward, but shitcoins has those, you know, those crazy things like staking and I don't even know, a lot of things. They don't know how to tax those events, but they want to. So they will tax about everything, but they don't really know how to, and they will still be figuring it out for the next year at least. But the really comic thing about it is that they were advised by a dude that was the former president of a shitcoin association in Portugal, and he actually has a company that makes and sells out NFTs, you know. And the guy actually made so that the NFTs were exempt of taxation.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
Wow.
They were in the mix at the beginning of the discussion to be taxed as crypto assets or whatever they call them, and they managed to take it out of the mix, and so NFTs won't be taxed. It's
Well,
it's
maybe
insane.
you know what? Honestly, I do like that. Right? Like I do like that there's less taxes. But it is interesting because probably this president of this foundation was paying off the politicians, right? Probably lining their pockets to get
Who
that law
knows?
put into place.
Who knows? I don't know. Well, even if he's not, there's a lot of people selling out for 2 pennies or for not even money at all. But yeah.
So,
Uh,
so what about the island of Madeira, right? Like, is that I've we've been hearing a lot about it. Hey, this is going to be a Bitcoin island.
yeah.
Have you been staying up on Madeira about what's going on out there?
Is that a Portuguese or a Spanish island?
No, it's Portuguese. It's
Portuguese.
it's a Portuguese island off the coast of Africa. But it's a really cool place. I've been to Madeira before. It's 2 islands, a bigger one and a smaller one, and it's a really nice place, and lovely people, great scenery, good food and weather and whatnot. But they have a small problem. Well, they have a lot of problems, but one of them is they're, by definition, an island is insular, right? So they have an energy problem, and but somehow a guy from Madeira, André Loja, a Portuguese Bitcoiner, nice dude. He managed to orange pill the president of Madeira. Madeira is an autonomous region of Portugal.
Oh wow.
I'm sure you can find similarities with some Spanish regions as well, like Catalonia and some
Yeah.
other areas it's somewhat like that. They're not independent. They have to abide to Portuguese law and the European Union and laws and whatever. So they have that going on against them because they can't make Bitcoin legal tender, uh, at least not on my point of view, not as easy as one would like to.
Mhm.
And but there's work to be done that can be done. I mean, maybe the government can't make it legal tender, but they can trade it as well. When I mean trade, not trading in the most used sense in the Bitcoin space. But you can buy and sell things with it, and it can be used in economy on a daily basis. They are trying to do that now, I believe. I don't know exactly how, but the government seems to be supportive of this, and they're trying to gather some attention to it. There's a lot of influential Bitcoiners that gave their time and their expertise to the matter, and I think it could be an interesting case study to see how Bitcoin can improve the lives of people in Western in a Western country, because there's not much of it, not at least not that I'm aware of. And I think it's because it's a smallish island, I think, and contained in sort of ways. I think it can be a good case study, and I'm looking forward to see the development on it. But I still have some reservations because again, it's politicians and their moods that decide if things are going. If you have the support of politicians, it's always sketchy, you know. It's always sketchy because their word is worthless. So I don't know. And besides, the president of Madeira is a guy that was it was not the coolest guy on the pandemic, you know. He was going into the loony avenue, trying to close everything down and keeping people. Yeah, I'm not a fan. But
Yeah, it's always hard. It's always hard because, you know, that's also the thing with politicians, you know. There are so many points to agree or disagree with politicians, because you'll never find a politician that aligns with all your views on all aspects, of course. I'm really curious to see, you know, I mean, Madeira has been getting a lot of attention with what they've been doing there. And, you know, they're hosting the conference, and you know, from higher up, they've got this stance being pro Bitcoin and wanting to implement more. So I'm mostly curious to see what that does to a population over there. Are we going to see, like, in 4 or 5 years, that there's like more Bitcoin holders on an island like that, where the government started talking about it early on, just like in El Salvador, you know? If the government starts saying, hey, this is good, and, you know, you see in El Salvador too, not everybody is accepting Bitcoin. Not everybody's like switching like that to a Bitcoin standard, but they do get a lot more touch points, you know. So you can imagine that there's going to be more of a higher percentage of the population that will be looking into this and starting to get into this, and over time that should become more visible. So I'm really curious to see how that will play out, and, you know, if in the future this turns out to be, you know, a place where, you know, more Bitcoiners are focused on.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see the development in Madeira as well. I don't think it will be a failed experiment, because even if the government changes or the president changes opinions on Bitcoin or Bitcoin support, I think people will lead the way with or without them. So I think as soon as Bitcoin starts getting used and noticed in the island, it will blow up. You know, it will be used more and more. So I'm not really worried about politicians being in the way of adoption in Madeira, but it has a few challenges to tackle this issue. Let's see how they do it. I'm eager to see them succeed and be a beacon of light to the rest of the world.
Yeah, sure. Hey, what just to pivot a little bit, what gets you most excited, like, nowadays, when you think about Bitcoin? Are you somebody that runs a node? Are you following all the developments on Lightning? Are you on Nostr? Are you mining, or are you just like stacking sats like a madman? Or, you know, like, are you doing stack chain, or what's going on? What gets you excited when you
Well, I do a lot of things, but I don't do nothing good. I I do have my nodes and I do have some mining rigs, but I don't do noding well and I don't do mining well.
Oh, but you do have miners. That's interesting. It's something I still want to get into. But
Yeah,
okay.
but it's more it's more a dry clothing business than mining is. My wife loves them because she
Oh,
can.
you're
Was
using
the
them
heater
to
for the
dry your
heaters?
clothes.
Yeah, mostly, yeah, and to warm up the house. It's mostly that because it doesn't because energy is a lot of it's very expensive in here, so it's not a profitable endeavor by
Okay,
any means,
got
but
it.
it's nice to learn a few things, and so that's why I do it.
So if Bitcoin goes up, it will become a profitable endeavor. But
Yeah.
you're probably saying it's probably cheaper right now to just buy Bitcoin outright with
Yeah,
the electrical prices you have
by a
over there.
lot. Yeah, by a lot, by a
Right.
lot.
Got
I
it.
use it
Got it.
mostly because I like to keep the house warm, and it's an excuse with the if it's cold, it's an excuse to turn them on.
Yeah.
But it's much more profitable. I mean, much more how do you say it? Easy and worthy to just stack sats with the money instead of turning the heat on. Yeah.
Interesting.
I never thought about using them to dry your clothes when they're hanging up either.
Yeah, you just well, you have to vent the place as well, because if not, the water just remains in the house. But if you have a cleaning room, uh you just hang the clothes there, you turn up the miners, and it does the job.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So Marcus and I we always have this thing where uh we want to know a little bit about your background. Do you have an engineering background of sorts? When you said you were building computers and things like that.
Well, not it's not computer related, so I don't do that good in that department as well. I'm in the construction business.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's the fiat world I live in.
Well, that can still be engineering. I don't know who knows?
Yeah. Did you study engineering or something like that?
No, I did. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't study
Okay.
engineering. Although I'm not an engineer by any stretch of the word. But I,
Okay.
I deal with a lot of engineers, and some of them are really bright guys. Some of them are dumb as fuck. But yeah, it's life.
Good. Another non-engineer. There's not many of us, but there's a few of us in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, sometimes it gets a bit weird because everybody's computer science engineer or something like that, and you just get, oh man, why the fuck? I just play ball, or I just brick layers, or
Yeah. Just lay bricks, you mean? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's just things are backwards in Portuguese and English, so sometimes you just
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but it is super interesting because okay, so you're a deviation right now from the norm because there is a clear trend over the 40 or so podcasts we did, Sean. We do, there's a big group of
Yep.
obviously it's male dominated, but definitely also like exceptionally large part of Bitcoiners are engineers or like you said have a computer science background or are in like data science or something like that, and
Yeah,
that's pretty
many in
interesting.
science and engineering fields, and many in finance as well. I think that's your
Correct.
background as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of
So
guys that.
they seem to get it first.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a trend, definitely. There's a trend, but it's like everything. I mean, even in finance, there's a lot of guys in finance that can't understand Bitcoin
Oh yeah.
For sure.
they couldn't
For
save their
sure.
life if their life depended on it. They can save themselves.
No.
Especially if they're like a PhD in economics.
Yes.
Yeah,
They're the
yeah,
last one. They'll be the last ones to understand Bitcoin. They don't,
yeah.
they don't get it at all. And it's weird, right? It's weird because, I'm a basketball player and I was like, dude, sometimes when I see these PhDs in economics speaking about Bitcoin, I'm like, how am I smarter than you about Bitcoin? Like how can they be that dumb? It just doesn't make any sense.
And the thing is, they sometimes they are, or oftentimes they come out with some ridiculous arguments and some ridiculous propositions about Bitcoin. You just can't understand how are these people making these thoughts. How are they thinking like this? It's insane. It's insane. Given their background, it should be easier to understand a few concepts and a few things about Bitcoin, but they don't seem to understand it. It boggles me.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind.
The good thing is that in a few years, Bitcoin will make them irrelevant anyway, so it doesn't even matter. Their opinions don't matter. As the old saying goes, Bitcoin doesn't care. It just keeps dropping a block every 10 minutes, TikTok, next block. So
Exactly. Exactly. I've been I'm this the dumb takes from no coiners or shitcoin. They're not really shitcoiners, but from no coiners or uh, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's meme material for decades, and but it's
yeah, like the Francis Coppola, the,
yeah,
the pizza, infinitely
yeah.
divisible and
These
all that.
type of people, some of them are not dumb. I mean, I'm not sure about Francis Coppola because some of them are embedded with government, so I don't trust them. But some of them are really dumb.
Yeah,
And
sometimes it's hard to know if are they a useful idiot, right? Do they actually believe what they're saying, and they're just believing this stupidity? So are they a useful idiot, or are they some type of is it some type of psyop? Are they like some agent that's purposely fudding Bitcoin? And like that's really hard to tell the difference
yeah,
as you're
I
looking
think
at Bitcoin.
many of them can't be that stupid. I think they have some vested interests in other than in things other than Bitcoin. So they drive up this narrative of Bitcoin is bad for whatever.
Yeah,
And
maybe they think that they're doing a good thing by fighting Bitcoin, right? You never know, like maybe they think they're protecting democracy or they're protecting the currency that they have, right, by fighting Bitcoin. And so that's what you have to be careful of is, you know, as people, we've been lied to by governments and government agents since the beginning of time, right? Authorities have
since
always
government exists.
yeah, authorities have always lied to the people to try to get the people to do what they want, whether that was for the perceived collective good or whether it was for their good or not. Instead of telling them the truth, they would tell them some lie. And so you have to sit down and honestly assess the situation and think, hey, that's probably a real possibility with Bitcoin, is that there are people that are paid to FUD Bitcoin and to spread fear and lies about Bitcoin. And they probably think that it's in the good of the people, or they don't care and it's in the good of their own pocket and they're making money off of it. So they don't really even care who the good is for, but they justify it some way, somehow to themselves, and they collect a paycheck for it. So that's what you have to be wary of, is who's actually telling you the truth, who's genuine, who's honest, who believes what they're saying. And being able to decipher and to distinguish truth from the lie is the most important thing. And you can't just Google it. You have to sit down and really do hard research yourself to figure out the truth. So it takes time to really understand the lie versus the truth. But we're getting kind of close on time, and we have our last three questions that we want to ask you. and you better come ready because these are hard questions.
I'm not sure. Let's see.
How many bits inside it? No, sugar. Uh,
What
Okay.
happens at block height 840,000?
40,000, yeah. The halving happens. Okay. Question number 1. What did you read or listen to that made you finally swallow the orange pill? What made it just click for you?
I think it's well, I was already orange pilled when I read 21 lessons from Gigi, but that's the book I recommend to everybody because it's rather easy to read and to understand, and it's really great. But I think I'm not sure if it was a book that I never thought about it. I don't think it was a book that I've read that turned everything clear, you know. But there's a few books that are definitely interesting. Well, they are the go-to for any Bitcoiner when they're trying to orange pill Bitcoin to normies. It's the Bitcoin standard and a few others.
Bitcoin standard, safety and Amos.
Yeah. I think, but the one I really like the most, I think it's 21 lessons. Yeah.
But yeah, 21 lessons.
Del Gigi. Yeah.
Gigi is amazing because he knows. Gigi really is amazing, and I know I'm simping right now, which I don't normally like to simp, but it is amazing that he's like his first language is German, I think, and he can talk about Bitcoin in English way better than most Bitcoiners that are native English speakers can talk about Bitcoin in English, and he can break it down so simply in a foreign language, and then on top of that, like. He can joke with the memers. He can talk with the people, the coders. He can talk with people like this big money guy, like the macro guys. He knows how to. He can talk with everyone. It's pretty insane. How smart that guy is.
I had I actually I think he's a very good example for Bitcoiners and non-Bitcoiners because the guys, well, he passed the Bitcoin test, the IQ test with flying colors.
Yeah,
you know, he has a background, a difficult background, and you can clearly see you read one of his books or you see one of his lectures, and you understand immediately this guy is really smart. And the one of the things that I most that was most surprising to me was he's not funny only when he's shit posting or when he's on Twitter or whatever, or on his lectures or his because they are scripted, right? It's not only when he's scripting things that is funny or when he's thinking about and writing them. He's really funny in real life as well. I had the opportunity to be with him and have a few drinks with him. And the guy's really funny in real life and in real time, you know. It's insane. It's really funny. Yeah, and incredibly smart. It's amazing.
I just listened to, so he gave a talk or a lecture, whatever you want to call it, in Riga in Latvia recently. I think that was back in September, and it was called "Cryptography is Not Enough." And I just listened to that one. It was recommended to me by TC and Meditation Man. And it was cryptography is not enough. Like there was a couple of things that were blowing my mind, and it feels good to get your mind blown every once in a while on Bitcoin because you know that hasn't happened in a while. So I had
the good fortune to actually watch that lecture live. I was there, and it was insane.
It was really good, and I would recommend anyone. It's on YouTube. It's just called "Cryptography is Not Enough" by Gigi. That's, you know, it just breaks down some more things that a lot of times you don't think of, and it's good to keep thinking and keep pushing, how much you learn and to continually learn about Bitcoin and answer a lot of these questions, because I think a lot of people think, oh, it's cryptography is what makes Bitcoin, or it's the scarcity, or it's this, or it's that. But he really talks about how Bitcoin is unique, and everyone's looking to make the next Bitcoin or to find the next Bitcoin. And if you can just finally realize there is no next Bitcoin, this is the TCP/IP, this is the electricity, this is flight, this is the internet, this is like, there's no next. This is the thing that you should be looking at right now is Bitcoin. So, okay, that's my rant, Marcus.
Yeah.
Next question, Sean. you keep saying we're low on time, and then you like throw out like another 7-minute rant.
I'm sorry, I really liked it. So, okay, next question.
It's
But noted.
basketball time.
I haven't heard that one from Gigi yet, so I'm definitely gonna watch it. So thanks for the tip.
Yeah, it's about 40. It's about 40, 45 minutes.
A small advice. I haven't seen the video yet, but it was insane on real time, because the amount of clicks per minute was off the charts. He was just changing slides as fast as he could, and he talked really fast. I was mind blown by the lecture. By the way, I'll have to check the video on it.
I was thinking about that too, because he was just, it was like every couple seconds there would be a new thing clicked on, and he was speaking so fluidly through the whole presentation, and I was like, how is he speaking?
Yeah,
like it was like he had the whole thing memorized. And it was 45 minutes of just a memorized presentation.
I mostly watch the podcasts and whatever. Whenever it's not live, I watch it on 2x on YouTube or whatever. Usually 1.8, 2x, 2.2 depends on the speaker.
Yeah,
I had the sensation I was watching that live in 2x. It's insane.
I'm telling you, it was pretty insane, because it was about a 45-minute presentation. And I guess if you're clicking, then it helps guide you along, right? Because the new thing pops up, and that can help guide you along. But I mean, I guess those were his notes. So
all right, we're blown away. I'm gonna watch it. Stop giving everything away. Next question.
Go ahead and watch it, Marcus.
I'm gonna go watch it. Yeah.
Okay. Next question is number 2. Jose, how do you see hyper Bitcoinization playing out?
Bitcoin is an optimism engine. Without Bitcoin, I think that's my outlook on things would be a lot darker than they are now. But it can't fix everything. And I think the transition stage through hyper Bitcoinization will be painful to a lot of people, to most people actually. And I think it's going to be wild. It's going to be some wild times, because I believe there's some speeding going on with events. World events are speeding up the pace of adoption, and as much more people adopt Bitcoin, more governments will try to suppress it by any means possible, and I think that will cause a lot of friction and unhappiness and disputes along the way. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. All right.
I love that statement. Bitcoin is an optimism engine. Yeah. As the driver behind hyper Bitcoinization. I love that. Cool.
Yeah, Bitcoin is hope, and I think that'll bring a lot of people to it. Okay, last question. We've talked this whole episode about Bitcoin, about why we're not crazy, about why it's gonna work, why it's optimism, how we're all orange pilled. What if we're wrong? Jose? What if we are wrong? And what do you see as the biggest threat to Bitcoin?
The biggest threat to Bitcoin, let me think. Well, I don't think there's a threat that can match Bitcoin invulnerability, you know. But some of them will try to match Bitcoin's invulnerability with malfeasance and with aid. And I think governments and central banks will be the biggest threats to Bitcoin. They are not really threats per se. They are more nuisances.
Yeah.
You know, but they can yeah, they can be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, they might be able to slow the adoption down. But yeah, it's interesting because we've asked a lot of people about what they see as their biggest threat. And I think that's the thing about Bitcoin is we've studied it so much. That's why we're Bitcoiners now, right? Because we're still yet to find the other outside of a black swan, right? Like what's, I was reading on Twitter earlier today or yesterday, someone saying, what if the black swan that no one's expecting is that the Fed actually figures this whole thing out, right? That the central banks figure this out and get a soft landing, take the inflation down. Like, what if that happens?
That would be great.
Exactly.
It won't happen though.
That would be great because then we wouldn't be in this huge hyperinflation world, or a world that's headed towards hyperinflation. But I just don't see that being a possibility. So.
No way.
Yeah. All right, Jose, anything else that we didn't cover, or is something you wanna add to the viewers, or
ask us?
where can people find you? Or are you working on anything before Sean goes into his closing rant?
I'm not selling anything, so people don't need to find me anywhere. I don't care. But yeah, if I was selling something, I would say, well, look me up on Twitter, and I'm there mostly. Well, I haven't been in Twitter lately because well, I have other things that I need to do, but sometimes I have to take a few time from Twitter because it can get how do you say it?
Extreme.
What?
You can get like extreme.
Not extreme, but addicting. Addictive.
Yeah.
It can get addictive. Yeah.
Imagine if you're like a new person and you're joining Twitter, right? Like, what is the best way to approach Twitter? Because obviously there's, are there a lot of people that will help you, or
Yeah.
like how would you approach Twitter?
Well, for a new guy or girl entering Bitcoin Twitter right now, I think the advice would be beware of scammers, and some of them are obvious, but some of them are not. Especially if you're new to Twitter. But yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. If you can think clearly, you won't get caught in any scamming. But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree. I guess just to throw in a little practical tip, I would be like, all right, we talked about Dare Gigi, go look up Dare Gigi, see who he's following, who is he interacting with, and slowly build out like who you're following through that process, then use the signal to find more signal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
beware of like people posting stuff under a tweet saying that Bitcoin is great and come to this Telegram group or follow this person.
Yeah.
It's like, it seems like Twitter 101, but there's still so many people that like get conned into weird groups and whatever. Yeah. And another thing, I think it was a meme. People used to say, like lurk more. So just
Yeah.
follow a lot of people first before like
Yeah.
proclaiming your views. And if you do want to proclaim your views, maybe formulate them as a question instead of like as a statement.
If you will get Twitter slapped into reality.
Exactly. So kind of stay humble and
Yeah.
go from there.
Exactly. Take your Bitcoin off the exchanges, everybody. Make sure you take your Bitcoin off the exchanges. So, okay.
Right.
Well, thank you, Jose. It's been a pleasure, man. It's been muito fish, muito
I'm
bem.
telling you, man, we're becoming the most international Bitcoin podcast there is. We've got like people from I mean, where do we have? Sweden, we have Turkey, Portugal, the US, of course, South America.
Yeah.
We had Kyle Casa from
Ethiopia.
Australia.
Yeah.
Tip NZ from New Zealand. It's I love it, man. It's all these perspectives. I mean, for some reason, Bitcoin Twitter is very much US centric, right? I mean, and don't get me wrong, it's obvious. I mean, the US is the global economic engine, still biggest economy, and it reflects also in like the people that are on Twitter. But there are a lot of different perspectives out there, and obviously, a lot of times, I find it interesting, especially those countries where there's like hyper, like that discussion we had with Stackmore from Turkey. It just kind of reminds you to be like, oh yeah, there is like
Bitcoin Twitter is very US centric, and I mean it for the Anglo or US point of view of things too, because if it gets into Portuguese and Spanish, it gets sidetracked, and you just step out of Bitcoin Twitter in a moment.
Yeah,
that's not the point. But yeah, I think we should outside of non-Americans should orange pill more, because there's more world beyond America, and I've been doing my part as well. I have a Bitcoin podcast in Portuguese for Portuguese.
Nice.
Oh,
Portuguese speaking.
You didn't even mention that when I
yeah,
asked you
come
this.
on, yeah.
Because I'm not like I said, I'm not selling anything, and the people that would watch that podcast will probably not see this. I'm not sure. But,
I'm not gonna watch it if it's in Portuguese, but it's still cool to hear that like Bitcoiners are working on spreading education and doing.
Yeah, I
think we shouldn't underestimate how important it is. Just to, as you said, you need multiple touch points. So the more people that are doing that, it all helps to spread awareness. And
I've been trying to make to get more disciplined in orange peeling other people on a more frequent basis, not in person because it annoys me because I can't deal with the regardness, but and it can get
babysitting.
Yeah, it can get taxing if you try to deflect all the bullshit that people say to you when you try to orange peel them. It gets tiring fast, but I'm trying to do it in other ways, like you are doing with this podcast. I make a podcast in Portuguese with a few other Portuguese people, and it has viewers from Brazil and from Africa as well. And
oh wow.
And I'm making a newsletter, a weekly newsletter in Portuguese as well, trying to orange peel people. Yeah. I just it started with I'm trying to be short here because I know we're short on time. I used to send every Fridays. I used to send to some normie friends or family, a few, maybe 10 at most, some insights in regarding economy and Bitcoin. Well, mostly economy with that driving people into Bitcoin. I didn't want to orange peel hard because people get tired fast of it. So I was trying
Yeah,
to
you kind of want to
show-
explain the problem
problem.
first.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I was trying to show them the problems we have in our economies and in Portugal, in Portugal and in all the world, and then showing them the solution afterwards. And I've been doing that for a few months now. For well, not for a few months, maybe a year or so. And I decided to. I was doing on the normie media and normie ways in WhatsApp and whatever they use, you know.
Yeah.
And I got bored with it, and now I publish a newsletter in Substack, and I just dump it on Substack every Friday. So that's my main contribution to Bitcoin. I'm not a dev. I'm not a computer science guy. So this is what I do now. Every Friday, I write a few words, and I make a live podcast in the evening with some friends, and that's it.
Awesome,
Good.
awesome, man. Keep
Needed.
it going. That's what we need.
Yeah. You got, I mean, Bitcoin can't just be this thing that's in English, right? It's got to be out there in every language. And Portuguese is a huge language across the world. So keep going, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jose, man. And for everyone else that's listening in, remember, we got the Meme Factory podcast every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. We go live on our YouTube channel. That's with Marcus and me and the rest of the Meme Factory crew. And remember, what you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, don't just let it stay here. Please share, like, subscribe, drop a comment for us. If you learned something, if you found it, if you found this useful, entertaining, let us know. And, let people know that the Bitcoiners Guide is around, that we're here. We're not going anywhere. We keep moving up, keep going forward. And as for Bitcoiners Guide, episode 45 from Jose S. Hoddle, Plan Marcus, and Big Sean. Over now. Peace.